No village is without its fool. Every village has one. By day, he wanders the village. By night, he keeps it safe. I am the village fool, and everyone wants to drive me away. But they don't know I have another identity, the village guardian. And in this secluded rural village, the nights are far from peaceful. Chen-an, you want a wife? I was lying in the sun on a rock in the drying yard, when Ethan Chen, the village chief's eldest son, led a crowd to surround me. He had a dog-tail grass blade in his mouth. Eyes squinted in a smile that held no good intention. Impatient, I sat up, my face blank as I looked back at him. Sure, I want one. Your wife looks all right to me. Ha! Who says the second fool is a fool? I think he's cunning as hell. The onlookers roared with laughter. Ethan Chen didn't get angry. He scratched his nose, his smile even wider as he addressed me. You've got an eye, all right. Fine then. I'll let you sleep with my wife for one night. Can you give me your house? The villagers fell silent, everyone looking at me with profound implications in their eyes. Ethan Chen had coveted my house for a long time. My home was a red brick courtyard house, a unique quadrangle in this village, built by my grandfather at great expense. After my parents died, I lived alone in that large compound. Many villagers eyed it enviously, but despite all the prying eyes, everyone was too afraid to outright steal it. You've never touched a woman in your life, have you? What do you say? Not thinking, I stood up from the rock, looking down at him. Who says I haven't touched a woman? The villagers were surprised to hear this. Ethan Chen grew even more excited. Oh, our second fool has this skill too. Tell us, which girl in our village have you been with? I pointed my arm straight at Ethan Chen. Touching is being with. Then I've been with his mother too. Guy, the drying yard was silent for a moment, then erupted in a thunderous laugh. Ethan Chen, both ashamed and enraged, rushed to grab me. But I quickly dodged him. What are you doing? Bullying a fool? I'll tell the village chief. I stood akimbo, glaring defiantly at Ethan Chen. His temples throbbed with anger. You slandered my mother, and you dare to tell the village chief. I stepped 2 paces to the left, dodging Ethan Chen's wild punch. When did I slander your mother? Last week I slapped her. Have you forgotten? Ethan Chen froze, his fist retracting. All right, Brother Dali. Why bother with a fool? The other young man chuckled, pulling Ethan Chen away. Jobin, the teacher, who had recently returned to the village, looked at me in astonishment. Sometimes I suspect you're just pretending to be a fool. So, this is the first time I've seen Ethan Chen suffer such a loss. I paused, looking at him suspiciously. Where did he get turtle meat? I want some too. Jobin was stunned for a moment and burst out laughing. You are truly interesting. But why did you slap Mrs. Chen last week? This teacher who came back to the village was really bothersome. Aside from the hooligans, led by Ethan Chen, most villagers paid little attention to me. Only Jobin, the new teacher, was idle enough to seek me out and chatter like a noisy sparrow. I found him annoying, so I ignored him and continued toward the back mountain. My rest was over. It was time for my mountain patrol. Why don't you pay attention to people? Don't you get tired wandering the village like this every day? Why exactly did you hit Mrs. Chen? Was the ancient coin she found really yours? Last week, Ethan Chen's mother went up the back mountain to pick mushrooms. On her way back, she found an ancient coin. She paraded it around the village, boasting. Villagers said, Mrs. Chen is about to strike it rich. This coin must be worth a lot. I took one look and realized it was a mouth-holding coin, something placed in the mouth of the deceased during burial. A mouth-holding coin contains the last breath of the dead, and also their first surge of ill-omened energy. If Mrs. Chen brought that coin home, something bad would happen to her family. So I immediately and decisively slapped her hard across the face, snatched the mouth-holding coin, and ran. Finally, in front of everyone, I threw the mouth-holding coin into the lake behind the mountain. Second fool, say something. I stopped, looked at Zhou Bin seriously, and spoke each word clearly. Everything found in this village belongs to me. The affairs of the living are managed by the village chief. The affairs of the dead are managed by me. Zhou Bin silently lowered his head and followed me. I didn't pay him any mind, continuing my stroll in the back mountain. My name is Chen Ping'an. The villagers call me Chen An, the second fool. And my father was the great fool. My father was initially normal, but later, when my mother had a difficult labor with me, he reportedly prayed all night at the Earth God Temple. From then on, he became dull-witted and confused. Only I know that my father, to ensure my safe birth, made a deal with the Earth God to become our village's guardian. A person has 3 souls and 7 IP, spiritual essences. Once you become a village guardian, you must send your Ling Hu, Paul, the II that governs quickness and agility among the 7, into the Earth God's temple. The Yiling Hui, Paul, controls a person's intelligence and knowledge. Lacking this IPO, a person naturally becomes dull-witted, like a fool. The guardian role is passed down from generation to generation. My parents died in an accident when I was 5. Since then, I became the 2nd-generation guardian in my family. Losing my quickness, I certainly couldn't study. I was still in elementary school at 16, never graduating. A truly unique case in our village. Well, while I couldn't learn from the books of the living, I knew quite a bit about the affairs of the dead. Hey, second fool, look, someone's fishing. I ignored Jobin. The matter of Mrs. Chen finding the mouth-holding coin still weighed heavily on my mind. Mouth-holding coins are usually placed in the mouths of the dead during burial. We never heard of anyone's grave being dug up, so where did this coin come from? Did the dead crawl out of the ground themselves? Whoa, what a big fish! Why isn't this fish moving? Ah, I caught a dead fish! Zhou Bin yelled, flailing his arms beside me. Hearing that, I immediately snapped to attention. I saw Chen Li, the village supermarket owner, cursing loudly as he removed the hook from the dead fish's mouth. Damn, what bad luck! I ran up quickly and pulled Chen Li away. He stumbled from my tug, a bit annoyed. Go, go, get out of the way! I don't have time to play with a fool like you. A dead fish with its mouth shut. Pull up your rod and leave. If you catch a dead fish while fishing in the fields, chances are there's something unclean in the water. It uses the dead fish on the hook to find a substitute. If Chen Li didn't leave with me immediately, the unclean entity in the water would cling to him. I pulled Chen Li with all my might, ignoring his struggles, dragging him away from the lakeside. Chen Li violently shook my hand off. A splash! Zhao Bin, who was standing by watching the commotion, was pushed into the lake. Oh! Not far from Zhao Bin, a large wave rippled on the surface of the lake. The lake water in the village was very clear. Chen Li and I could distinctly see a shadowy figure parting the waves, rushing towards Zhao Bin. Chen Li stammered in fear. What is that? I seriously watched the shadowy figure. I had had excellent eyesight since childhood. Though the shadow was underwater, I recognized the familiar gray clothing at a glance. It was Uncle Fugi. Uncle Chen, Uncle Fugi. It last summer evening, while swimming in the lake. Uncle Fugi hated the heat, but his family was poor and couldn't afford an electric fan. So on hot summer nights, he'd be so hot he couldn't sleep, and would go alone to the back mountain to swim. After I chased him away several times, he angrily found an opportunity to secretly lock me in my house. Then he sneaked off to swim in the back mountain, and as a result, he never returned. If it was Uncle Fugi, then it was easy. I shouted loudly towards the lake's surface. The fish is too big. Brother Li, hurry and catch it. No! Chen Li was pushed into the lake by me. He thrashed his limbs frantically on the water surface, both surprised and angrily cursing. Damn it! I'm freezing to death. Chen An, when I get to shore, you're dead. I quickly turned and ran toward the north side of the lake, where a row of lush willow trees grew. It was winter now. The willow leaves had long since fallen, leaving only bare branches hanging down like a giant inverted broom. I circled the westernmost willow tree once, then quickly climbed it and plucked a willow branch. Willows belong to Wayan. Every willow tree has a Wayan branch that never sees sunlight but grows very supple. Holding this Wayan branch, I could use it to hit ghosts. I called it the Ghost Beating Whip. I jumped into the water with the Ghost Beating Whip. The freezing lake water startled me, and my scalp went numb. After struggling to swim for a while, my body gradually regained sensation. I blinked and looked underwater. The grey shadow was indeed lingering between Chen Li and Zhao Bin. Sometimes it swam towards Zhao Bin. Then, after 2 strokes, it would turn and swim towards Chen Li. After circling for a while, it turned back towards Zhao Bin. I couldn't help but sigh. Uncle Fugi had this problem. Even as a ghost, he hadn't changed at all. I only learned about Uncle Fugi's condition when I left the mountains and went to a big city. It was called decision paralysis. Every morning, his wife would prepare his clothes and shoes. If his wife didn't prepare them one day, he could stand in front of the wardrobe all day trying to choose. And his wardrobe only contained 2 outfits in total. Because of this, he became the village's laughingstock more than once. I heard that when he wanted to name his child, he specifically went to the most educated university student in the next village to ask for help. That student gave him 3 names to choose from, but when he got home, he couldn't choose. In the end, to match the 3 names, he simply had 3 children. Now, Uncle Fugi had transformed from Uncle Fugi into a water ghost, and the water ghost must find a substitute ghost to be reborn. Choosing a substitute ghost is very important. If chosen poorly, it could affect its path to reincarnation. The human realm has its laws, and the underworld has its rules. If you die an unnatural death, your ghost will linger at the place of death, unable to enter the underworld for reincarnation. Some people call this type of ghost a place-bound spirit, because where someone dies unjustly, a strange malevolent energy is produced. A place-bound spirit cannot leave that spot unless a new ghost appears to block this malevolent energy for it. The underworld allows ghosts to find substitutes, but the chosen substitute must not be a person of great virtue or long lifespan. Uncle Lee, though old, was robust and clearly destined for a long life. Jobin, though frail, was young and had a fervent heart for teaching in the mountains, carrying a faint golden light of merit. These two were indeed difficult to choose from. If you can't choose, then choose neither. I sped up, swimming in front of Uncle Fugi, and forcefully swung the ghost-beating whip in my hand. The willow branch arced yellow through the water, striking Uncle Fugi hard. He stared at me with wide, startled eyes. My hand didn't stop. I mercilessly delivered a few more lashes. Uncle Fugi, beaten into a chaotic mess, fled. Fighting underwater was truly exhausting. After just a few lashes, I already felt a bit drained. I paused to rest. Uncle Fugi watched me for a moment with a complex gaze, then turned and swam to the other side of the lake. I swam to the surface, took several deep breaths, then went back to pull Chen Li and Jobin out. Chen Li lay on the ground, shaking like a sieve, freezing me to death. Jobin, though pale, was in fairly good spirits. He clasped my hand, full of gratitude. Second fool, if it weren't for you, I'd be dead for sure. You're truly my savior. Once I finish teaching, I'll take you to Zhejiang to play. All expenses paid. Food, lodging, and travel. I withdrew my hand with a sigh, looking sorrowfully and resentfully at the distant, undulating mountain. I can't leave these mountains. You take this ghost-beating whip. Saying this, I solemnly placed the willow branch I'd been clutching into Jobin's hand. Jobin stared blankly at the ghost-beating whip in his hand, opening his mouth as if to speak, but no words came out. Fifth. Oh, what bad luck for me. Never mind. I won't argue with a fool like you. Chen Li laughed, cursed, and sat up from the ground, brushing off the dampness on his coat before putting it on, then shiveringly headed down the mountain. Bin looked at me with a mix of pity and compassion, a gaze that gave me goosebumps. Let's go. Time for dinner. Seeing me stand up to leave, Jobin also hurried to follow. Second fool, I have instant noodles in my room. Do you want some? Yes. After I pushed Chen Li into the lake, the villagers became much more well-behaved. Everyone thought my illness had flared up again, and no one dared to go out at night, which made me breathe a sigh of relief. Every night at 11 o'clock, I would wander the village. If I saw anyone still outside, I would pull them firmly back home. Because of this, I often got beaten. But even with a bruised face, I persisted. The villagers were both angry and helpless about this, eventually having no choice but to comply. Under my influence, most families went to bed very early and no one went out at night anymore. Today was very cold, with very low temperatures in the mountains at night. But the village chief's house was unusually lit, because Ethan Chen's wedding was tomorrow. His wife was bought by the village chief for a large sum of money from a neighboring village. Rumor had it she was even a university student. Her name was Liu Xinghua, an abandoned child. Her adoptive parents had been married for years without children. After they found her, they initially treated her very well, but in the second year, her mother became pregnant with twins, a boy and a girl. From then on, Liu Xinghua's good days ended. As she grew a little older, before she even learned to walk, she had to learn to work. Later, when she was 10, it took much persuasion from village gatherers for her parents to agree to let her and her siblings attend school. Liu Zhenhua entered first grade at the age of 10, but thanks to her efforts and intelligence, she quickly skipped 2 grades, catching up with her peers. By the time she reached high school, Liu Xinghua had become the only university student in the area. It was said she even got into a prestigious school, but her younger siblings all failed their exams. Liu Zhenhua's parents then let her younger sister take her place at university and sold Liu Zhenhua at a high price to Ethan Chen as a wife. Ethan Chen was a notorious hooligan in our village. Though tall and robust, his temper was terrible. When angry, he'd even hit his own parents. He himself was good for nothing, but he had high standards, claiming his wife must be the smartest and most beautiful woman in the region. After Liu Xinghua was brought here, it was said she neither cried nor made a fuss, spending all day just lying in her room. Tomorrow was the big day of their wedding ceremony. Second fool, open the door. Second fool, come eat the wedding feast. Don't sleep anymore. Every day I had to patrol the village until the rooster crowed before returning home to sleep. So the next day, I would always sleep until noon. Joe Bin banged on the door loudly. Hearing the words wedding feast, I sprang out of bed. You're wearing this outfit? Joe Bin stared at me in shock. He reached out and pulled down the black mourning armband I wore on my arm, his eyes wide. Second fool, you really are foolish. We're going to a wedding, not a funeral. You'll get beaten if you wear that. I brushed his hand away, adjusted my clothes, and after putting the armband back on, closed the door. This is a funeral anyway? Ethan Chen is marrying a dead person. Joe Bin, looking serious, pulled my arm again. Second fool, if you go like this, you really will get beaten. Our villagers are very traditional. They take these things very seriously. Be good and listen. Let's change into different clothes and go. Joe Bin, as thin as a stick, was no match for me. Finding him annoying, I simply locked him in the yard and went out. Well, if Ethan Chen married Liu Xinghua, this marriage would be a ghost marriage. Within 7 days, he would be taken away by Liu Xinghua, becoming a pair of ghostly lovers. Chen Li, 200 coins. Chen Manshang, 500 coins. Uncle Seven in the village sat at a table draped in red cloth, recording the wedding gifts. His grandson stood beside him, calling out names loudly. I stepped up and presented the money in my hand. Uncle Seven's nose twitched with anger at the sight. Someone drag this fool out. Ethan Chen, standing at the door greeting guests, heard the commotion and came out. Seeing the underworld money on the table, he immediately swung a fist at me, but was quickly restrained by those next to him. Dalai, it's a happy day. Don't mind this fool. That's right, Dalai, the second fool has been foolish since childhood. Don't pay him any mind. Today you're the groom. I'll chase the second fool away. Don't be angry. Don't be angry. A group of his friends surrounded me, spreading their arms and slowly closing in. One of them even carried a thick rope. I had been very strong since childhood, and these people had all been beaten by me before. Moreover, my family was poor. Apart from a house, I had nothing. Hitting me was a futile effort. Seeing my fist as big as a pot, they were all a bit weird. No one wanted to be the first to get punched. Chen Lai, who had a good relationship with Ethan Chen, shook the thick rope in his hand and said softly to me, "Second fool, today is Ming's happy day. Don't cause trouble anymore. Go home obediently, and I'll bring you a plate of braised pork." I ignored him, focusing intently on the main house. When dealing with spirits, one must follow the principle of courtesy before force. I was wearing mourning clothes and holding underworld money, indicating that I not only knew Liu Xinghua was dead, but was also willing to negotiate with her. With such a commotion outside, Liu Xinghua must have known I had arrived. But why wasn't she coming out? Thinking of this, I cupped my throat and shouted loudly into the courtyard, "Liu Xinghua, come out here. You cannot get married in this wedding." The courtyard was bustling with noise. Everyone was chatting and laughing merrily. I had feared Liu Xinghua wouldn't hear my call, but as soon as I finished speaking, the entire courtyard suddenly fell silent. A moment later, the whole courtyard erupted with people shouting and running out. Around me, old and young, men and women, quickly formed 3 layers deep. Chen Lai's shoe had been stepped on. He awkwardly pushed away the aunt next to him, saying with dissatisfaction, "I'm handling important business." "Auntie-san, why are you squeezing in?" The aunt jumped up, slapping him hard on the head, small in stature but quick in movement. "For 50 years. I've waited for 50 years. And finally, someone comes to crash a wedding. And the wedding crasher is a fool. To witness this scene today, my 50 years haven't been wasted. What kind of nonsense is this? Who's crashing a wedding?" I ignored them, continuing to call Liu Xinghua inside the house. As soon as I opened my mouth, the noisy crowd immediately fell silent. You could hear a pin drop. "Liu Xinghua, come out here! Don't pretend you can't hear me. Today, this marriage, I absolutely will not let it succeed. I'm going crazy." Ethan Chen couldn't take it anymore and jumped up, intending to hit me, but was immediately silenced by an old man covering his mouth. "Shh! Let him finish." Ethan Chen was held tightly by a group of aunts and old men behind him, unable to move. At this moment, a mournful sigh echoed from within the courtyard. "Second fool, you shouldn't have come here." The surrounding crowd immediately gasped, the loudest gasp coming from Ethan Chen's mother. Liu Xinghua, wearing a fiery red wedding dress, her face made up to be unnaturally pale, walked gently and gracefully towards me. The crowd automatically parted like the Red Sea, making a wide path. "Second fool, you shouldn't have revealed our secret. I thought you could keep it. Liu Xinghua bit her lip. Looking pitiful, I shook my head, my expression serious. I have my responsibilities. Liu Xinghua looked at me with a resentful gaze. I'm not going with you. Your coercion is useless. I sneered. It's not up to you to decide. Liu Xinghua lowered her voice, pleading. Second fool, Dale and I already married. I am now a daughter-in-law of the Chen family. I put my hands on my hips, looking at her angrily. You haven't entered the family registry yet. If you're not in the family registry, you're not considered a daughter-in-law of the Chen family. Today, whether you want to come with me or not, you must come with me. Liu Xinghua rushed into Ethan Chen's arms, crying loudly. Dale, I've been bullied by the second fool many times. It's my fault towards you. I was a bit annoyed. Why was this girl lying? She only spoke nonsense twice, not many times. On the very first night, she was brought back. Liu Xinghua was humiliated by Ethan Chen. At that time, she hung herself in her room. Girls who die from being oppressed by men in such a way are called wrathful women. A lovesick person who commits suicide for unrequited love is called a lovesick man. One who commits suicide because they cannot endure oppression is called a wronged woman. Lovesick men turn into ghosts who like wronged women have even greater resentment. They need fresh blood to exist, relying on absorbing men's and energy to solidify their form. Liu Xinghua had only just died. Her soul had not yet condensed. Only after 7 days could she absorb yang energy. During these 7 days, she needed to drink plenty of bird and animal blood. For the past few nights, she had been secretly sneaking out, intending to steal chickens from other houses. But I had always chased her back. I'll fight you to the death! Ethan Chen roared furiously, shoving away the people around him, lunging at me like a fierce tiger, pouncing on its prey. I dodged, also feeling a bit angry. Why are you so unreasonable? Ethan Chen, I'm helping you deal with her. Why aren't you grateful? The villagers, having enjoyed the spectacle enough, finally started to get serious. Chen Lai shouted loudly, Chen An, everyone always felt sorry for you and overlooked things. But this time, you've gone too far. Everyone tie him up and take him to the ancestral hall. One hand cannot cover the sky. One hand cannot cover the sky. How can one man fight against a crowd? Ethan Chen and several others pinned me to the ground and beat me. Finally, the clan elder stepped forward, saying that it was a day of great joy and blood should not be shed, which stopped everyone. The villagers continued to drink their celebratory wine, while I was tied up and locked in the ancestral hall. The clan elder said that the entire village would hold a meeting tomorrow to decide how to deal with me. I leaned against the corner of the wall, looking down at my loudly rumbling stomach. I'm hungry. I'm so hungry. Haven't eaten breakfast or lunch. I'm going to starve to death. Second fool, you've disappointed me greatly. The wooden door was pushed open, and Zhao Bin entered, carrying a stack of steamed buns with meat. He looked at me, wanting to speak, but holding back, finally sitting down dejectedly beside me. Second fool, I always thought that even if you weren't very clever, you had a child's heart and were a good person. But you... How could you do something like this? He shoved a meat bun into my mouth, feeding me while nagging. Bullying women is wrong. Bullying women is wrong. I know you're young and strong, and it's hard to avoid having needs. But you're committing a crime. After wolfing down 5 buns, I finally felt alive again. I'm not bullying women. Liu Jinghua isn't a woman. She's a ghost. Today is her first 7th day. If I don't stop her, Ethan Chen will definitely die tomorrow morning. Joe Bin leaned against the wall helplessly, sighing, his tone somewhat defeated. Damn it. How do I explain this to someone who's never been to school? There are no ghosts in this world, fundamentally. How do I talk about energy conservation, human body science, natural biology? I finished the entire plate of buns, letting out a satisfied burp. I know about energy conservation. Female ghosts need to absorb yang energy to survive. Zhao Bin desperately banged his head against the wall. A moment later, he stood up, dusted off his behind, and prepared to leave. You come back and untie me. Zhao Bin looked at me with complex eyes. Second fool. Even if you're a fool, you have to take responsibility for what you've done. I was a bit irritated. These people were the real fools, weren't they? None of them understood human speech. Didn't I give you a ghost-beating whip? Take that whip, soak it in a bowl of water, then drip that water into your eyes, and you'll be able to see ghosts. If I don't get out tonight, tomorrow, you can just prepare for Ethan Chen's funeral. My expression was more serious than ever before. Zhao Bin froze, a hint of hesitation on his face. Zhao Bin, Ethan Chen is just the beginning. After he dies, Xinghua will kill 1 person every 7 days. By then, all the men in the village will be dead. Zhao Bin looked at me deeply, then turned and left without hesitation. Hearing the sound of the lock clicking shut, I couldn't help but feel a little anxious. This house didn't even have a window, and the door was locked. How was I supposed to get out? My hands were tied behind my back. I paced around the house for a long time, finally finding a small stone in the corner of the wall. I took the stone and vigorously rubbed it against the thick rope. I didn't know how long I rubbed, but eventually the rope broke. Rubbing my numb wrists, I pressed my head against the door crack, preparing to carefully examine how to break the lock. Creak! Zhao Bin, distracted, pushed the door open, his face pale, and quickly shut it again, as if a mad dog was chasing him. How did you unlock it so silently? I covered half my face, glaring angrily at Zhao Bin, a long red mark emblazoned on my cheek. No, it's all fake. I've been hypnotized by the second fool. Second fool, I never knew you were such a master hypnotist. Quick, help me break the hypnosis. It's terrifying. Wah! I disgustedly pushed away Zhao Bin's hand, which was clutching my arm. No wonder people in the next village read until they became foolish. This Zhao Bin was indeed a fool. Not reading made one foolish. Reading too much also made one foolish. It seemed everything needed moderation. Thinking of this, I felt a little unconvinced by my own intelligence. Everyone called me a fool. Was there any fool in this world who was so profound and knew how to ponder life? Get out of the way! I tried to go towards the door, but found that Jobin had, at some point, tightly hugged my thigh. Don't go! Break the hypnosis for me. What hypnosis? A padded jacket? I pulled at Jobin's jacket with force, several buttons popping off. After stripping his jacket and throwing it on the ground, I turned and continued to walk out. It's broken. Don't cling to me anymore. Ethan Chen's wedding was a rare, lively occasion in the village today. In the evening, everyone in the village went to disturb the newlywed couple in their chamber. There wasn't even anyone guarding me in the ancestral hall. Jobin trailed behind me, stubbornly insisting that I explain what method I had used to hypnotize him. I was too lazy to pay him any mind, my steps quick, and soon arrived at Ethan Chen's house. His courtyard was bustling with people coming and going. Fearing they would capture me again, I quickly climbed the large tree nearby. Joe bin Alzo climbed up after me. He crouched cautiously on another branch, watching me, afraid I would do something to Lu Jinghua. I waited and waited. I waited until I was almost falling asleep before Ethan Chen's house gradually quieted down. Mrs. Chen came out to lock the gate, then frowned and returned inside. Earlier, the commotion had been fun to watch, but now she realized this commotion was in her own home. After confirming Mrs. Chen had returned inside, I slid down from the tree and quickly leaped into Ethan Chen's courtyard. Zhao Bing stomped his foot outside the courtyard in frustration. A moment later, he gritted his teeth and directly climbed a tree, then jumped down from it. Seeing him wince in pain, but not daring to make a sound, I couldn't help but feel annoyed. Why are you following me? Jobin's eyes were tearing up from the pain, but hearing my question, he stubbornly braced himself against the wall and stood up. I can't let you make any more mistakes. I looked at him with a slight headache, wanting to give him a good beating, but Jobin was the only person in this village who had never bullied me. He always looked at me with squinting smiles. He was a genuine university student, a golden phoenix from the big city, fair-skinned and scholarly, loved by everyone in the village. Whenever the villagers gave him something delicious to eat or drink, he always saved a portion for me. All right. If you want to follow, then follow. But don't make a sound. Understand? I helped Jobin hobble to the front of Ethan Chen's house. He hadn't bothered to pull the curtains completely, leaving a narrow gap 2 fingers wide, perfect for peeking. You bitch! Tell me, how long have you and that Chen been sleeping together? Liu Xinghua knelt on the ground, Ethan Chen holding a belt, whipping her hard across the back. In the dim light, Ethan Chen looked ferocious as a demon, his face twisted in a terrifying scowl that filled me with anger. But as terrifying as he was no match for Liu Jinghua, who was kneeling on the ground. Liu Jinghua's neck was unnaturally arched, revealing black marks. Her back was turned to Ethan Chen, so he naturally couldn't see Liu Jinghua's eerie, ghostly face. She was smiling, but her eyes bulged, and her dark red tongue extended long down to her chest. Jobin clamped his hand over his mouth, a whimpering sound, like a puppy escaping from between his fingers. He turned his back, squatted on the ground, and after a long while, lifted his head to look at me in horror. Gee, ghost! What is that? Hiccup, hiccup, hiccup! Didn't you say the hypnosis was broken? Wow. I completely didn't understand what he was saying. And why was he crying? I disgustedly moved aside, continuing to look into the house. Ethan Chen lay on his back on the floor, seemingly fast asleep, but Liu Xinghua was nowhere to be seen. My heart pounded in alarm. Where was Liu Xinghua? Where did Liu Xinghua go? An. Zhou Bin tugged at my sleeve. I pushed him away in disgust. Don't make noise. I'm looking for a load. Shh. Xinghua. Hiccup, 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 hiccup. Second fool, you're so annoying. What are you doing? I angrily turned around, and then I realized Liu Xinghua was squatting beside Zhou Bin, grinning. Second fool, are you looking for me? You demoness. Take this whip. I took a step forward, swinging the ghost-beating whip in my hand with all my might. The willow branches sliced through the air with a whistling sound. Liu Xinghua continuously retreated, her face growing increasingly unsightly. You refuse to drink the toast and insist on drinking the forfeit? I never drink anyway. I continued to lash out with the whip. Very quickly, Liu Xinghua was cornered against the wall. Thump, 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 thump. A series of heavy knocks came from the door, as if something was continuously pounding on it. Hearing this sound, Liu Jinghua's face lit up with joy. They're here. Not good. I turned and shouted loudly at Xiaobin, who was still squatting and trembling in the corner. Xiaobin, quickly go hold the door. In the quiet of the night, this shout resonated like thunder. The lights in Ethan Chen's parents' room immediately turned on. They emerged from their room, one after another. When Mrs. Chen saw me standing in the courtyard, she immediately put her hands on her hips, spittle flying. You thousand-bladed turtle bastard, bullying people right in my house. Why hasn't your cursed old man come to drag you away? You jinx, your whole family should just die. I bet your parents were cursed to death by you. After scolding me, she heard the noise at the door and stumbled quickly towards it, pushing Xiaobin aside. Who is it? Not letting people sleep in the middle of the night. Mrs. Chen, stop. Xiaobin was pushed, staggering. I stepped forward to try and stop her. But Village Chief Chen grabbed my wrist. Why are you running out here? Come back to the ancestral hall with me right now. Oh my! Why are there so many people? Who are you? In the dead of night, a dense crowd of people stood at the door. These people were dressed in ragged clothes, exuding a strong stench. Closer inspection revealed their faces were mottled and pale, some even reduced to mere skeletons. In their eyes, flickering green ghost fires danced, just like specters emerging from hell. Ah! Mrs. Chen let out a tragic scream, turning to run but tripping over her own feet, falling flat on her face. Zhou Bin also scrambled on all fours behind me, while the village chief retreated repeatedly in fear. I turned to look at Liu Jinghua, only to find that she had long since vanished from the courtyard. Not good, Ethan Chen. I gripped the ghost-beating whip, wanting to run towards Ethan Chen's room. At this moment, the corpses at the door all stumbled in, trying to reach out and grab Mrs. Chen's family and Zhou Bindong. These were actually the simplest kind of zombies. Liu Zhenghua had breathed a mouthful of resentment into them, causing them to emerge from their grave. They looked terrifying, but they weren't difficult to deal with. All one needed to do was stuff a piece of raw ginger into their mouths to dispel the resentment, and they were turned back into mere corpses. Of course, the first step was to overcome one's own fear. People like Zhao Bin had probably forgotten their own names in terror, and wouldn't have the courage to even think of ginger. These cumbersome individuals not only didn't help me fight the zombies, but ran crying towards me one by one. Mrs. Chen even grabbed my clothes, trying to push me into the horde of zombies, attempting to use me to block their advance. Ghosts fear the ghost-beating whip, but zombies do not. I was pushed into the midst of the zombies by Mrs. Chen and Aunt Liu. My thick, padded jacket was quickly torn, white cotton flying everywhere like a light snowfall. Thankfully, it was winter, and I was wearing thick clothes. I struggled to push the zombies away, grabbed a hoe from the corner of the wall, and fought them. Ah, ghosts! My son, Mrs. Chen and several others rushed back into Ethan Chen's room in a panic. Compared to the chaos outside, Ethan Chen's room was strangely quiet. Liu Jinghua clung tightly to the ceiling like a gecko, her crimson tongue like a roll of red cloth, hanging Ethan Chen suspended in the middle of the room. Ethan Chen thrashed wildly in the air, his face red from suffocation, veins bulging on his forehead, looking on the verge of death. Maternal love overcame fear, and Mrs. Chen rushed forward, hugging Ethan Chen's legs. The rope, now bearing more weight, tightened further around him. Just at this critical moment, Zhou Bin swung a chair and hit Liu Jinghua, saving Ethan Chen. After that, a few people and Liu Jinghua began to play a cat-and-mouse game in the house. Second fool, save us. Second fool. I swung the hoe, too exhausted to breathe. They were 4 against 1, and I was 1 against 20. How could they ask me to save them? What's going on? Alai, why are you making such a ruckus on your wedding night? Chen Li from the neighboring house yawned as he entered from outside. Seeing me swinging the hoe, he froze. So it's you, second fool, still daring to break into houses and commit assault. Today, I'll definitely teach you a lesson. Damn it, what is that? Chen Lai tumbled and crawled away, running for his life. As he ran, several zombies followed closely behind. These zombies, infused with resentment, hated all living, breathing creatures. If they ran into the village, it would be a disaster. At that moment, I couldn't even worry about the zombies swarming behind me. I chased after Chen Lei, running out. Seeing that I intended to run, Aunt Lu immediately grew anxious. She suddenly lunged, hugging my waist tightly. Unprepared, I stumbled from her charge, and we both fell to the ground. You can't go! You jinx! You brought these ghosts to kill us! You can't go! Even at this moment of struggle, more villagers entered the courtyard. Originally, the rural nights were very quiet, but our commotion was too loud, attracting many people to watch. One person led another, and in a flash, all the zombies from the house were led outside. I was burning with anxiety. Although zombies couldn't run as fast as adults, they were more than capable of dealing with the elderly. There were many villagers over 80 years old who normally needed help to walk. How could they be a match for these zombies? At this moment, Liu Yongjingha's tongue was wrapped around Ethan Chen again. There was no other way. I could only save the person in front of me. I swung the ghost-beating whip, closing in on Liu Xinghua, and yelled loudly at Zhou Bin, who was still dazed at the sight. Zhou Bin, quickly run to the kitchen and find ginger. Tell everyone to put ginger in the mouths of those zombies. They'll be fine. What are you doing out there? Go, hurry. Huh? Oh. Zhou Bin seemed to wake from a dream and rushed towards the kitchen. After I struggled with Liu Xinghua, Mrs. Chen's family immediately helped Ethan Chen run back into the house, not forgetting to close the doors and windows tightly. Second fool, please let me go. I'll leave right away and never come to your village again. Liu Xinghua, seeing that she couldn't defeat me, began to plead mournfully. This female ghost was cunning and full of soaring resentment. Of course, I couldn't just let her go. The whip in my hand seemed to come alive, swinging through the air, emitting a piercing whistle. Liu Jinghua was hit several times, her ghostly form fading slightly. Second fool. I wasn't picked up by my parents. I was abducted by them. They abducted me, forced me to work like an ox, and finally sold me to that beast, Ethan Chen. I was originally the daughter of a wealthy city family. In this life, I haven't enjoyed a single day of happiness. I'm not reconciled. I'm not reconciled. My whip-wielding hand paused, my expression showing a trace of hesitation. Seeing this, Liu Xinghua suddenly knelt before me with a thud. Ethan Chen has absorbed my yang energy for 30 years. This revenge can be considered paid. But the revenge against my adoptive parents has not yet been exacted. If you let me go back to their village for revenge, I will sign a ghost contract with you. I looked at her, conflicted. In the human world, there are human laws. In the underworld, there are underworld rules. Your adoptive parents' lifespan is not yet over. They did bad things. When they go to the underworld, King Yama will naturally pass judgment. Liu Zhonghua stood up, glaring at me angrily. Two streams of bloody tears flowed down. How long must I wait? Wait until they have a house full of descendants and enjoy a comfortable old age. Or wait until my younger sister, who took my place in school, falls in love, gets married, and lives a life I could only ever dream of. Everyone says there will be retribution in the next life. But what about this life? In this life, I suffered hardship and injustice. What does that count for? Chen, and I ask you, can justice that comes too late still be called justice? Hearing these words, I felt as if struck by lightning, frozen in place, 100 thoughts swirling in my mind. For a moment, I was speechless. That's right. Liu Xinghua had led the zombies down the mountain and absorbed Ethan Chen's Yang energy for 30 years, creating karma. If she went to the underworld, she would suffer punishment, probably much harsher than her adoptive parents. But originally, she was just an innocent child who was kidnapped. I stared blankly at Liu Jinghua standing before me. Her ghostly aura had dissipated by more than half, revealing her appearance at the time of her death. If I remembered correctly, she was only about 18, wasn't she? If she hadn't been replaced by an imposter, she would probably be a happy first-year university student right now. Liu Jinghua wore a loose, baggy, padded jacket that didn't fit her, revealing a segment of her pale wrist. On her wrist, blue and red wounds intertwined. Her open collar also showed numerous marks and bites. She's so thin, that it seems a gust of wind could blow her away. I sighed, feeling the ghost-beating whip in my hand weigh 1,000 pounds, unable to lift it anymore. All right, we'll sign a ghost contract. I'll give you 1 month for revenge. 1 month later, you must come back to me. A ghost contract is an agreement between a human and a ghost. The ghost voluntarily serves the human until that human reaches the end of their destined lifespan. Liu Jinghua's eyes lit up at these words. As if afraid I would change my mind, she quickly pressed her mark onto me and took a drop of my vital blood. The ghost contract was formed. She knelt and kowtowed twice to me, then without looking back, flew towards the next village. I stood there, watching her silhouette depart, feeling an indescribable emotion in my heart. Screams of agony continuously echoed through the village, pulling me back to reality. I slapped my forehead, grabbed the ghost-beating whip, and rushed out. That night, 7 elderly people died in the village, and over 30 people were bitten by zombies. Those bitten by zombies needed glutinous rice to draw out the poison, and the amount needed was not small. For the villagers, this amount of rice was enough to feed them for several months. To use it for drawing out poison now was truly more painful than tearing out their hearts. All the injured people in the village were placed in the ancestral hall. I sat beside them, checking their wounds. These corpses were all released by the second fool. In my opinion, the second fool must compensate us. Like a drop of water falling into hot oil, the ancestral hall immediately boiled over. Right. The second fool is bad luck. Not only did he kill his own parents, he dragged us into this too. Mrs. Liu was the first to run out. I saw with my own eyes that he was talking to the female ghost. The female ghost didn't kill him, so he must have been controlling her. Make the second fool compensate us. Compensate us with his house. His parents brought a large chest from another place before they died. I heard it contained a chest of gold ingots. Make him compensate us with that gold. Hearing about a whole chest of gold, the atmosphere in the ancestral hall grew heavier. Many people standing at the door turned and ran back to my house. Then more and more people joined them. And finally, even those who had just been detoxified, still injured, ran to my house. Don't go! You can't go. The second fool saved you all. How can you distort the truth like this? Zhao Bin desperately spread his arms, trying to block the crazed villagers. Very quickly, he was knocked down by the crowd and trampled a few times. I helped Jobin up, looking blankly and helplessly at the villagers, frantically running towards my house. From the age of 10, when I started patrolling the village, I was now 18. I had spent countless sleepless nights in this secluded village. I had driven away rogue shamans, repelled water monsters, and frightened off thieves. In the most serious incident, I had my leg broken by a monster in a coffin and was confined to bed for a month before recovery. But why were the people I had protected my entire life now trying to rob me? That Chen and colluded with the female ghost to harm the villagers. After discussion, the villagers have decided to confiscate his house as compensation for the villagers. Furthermore, the village has decided to expel Chen An from the clan, banishing him permanently from Chen family village. Good. I've had enough of him for too long. Last time I was fishing, he suddenly pushed me into the lake, and I coughed for half a month. Drive him out. Drive Chen An out. Drive Chen An out of the village. Drive Chen An out of the village! I knelt before the ancestral hall, staring blankly at the villagers. The clan elder raised his hand and shouted loudly, then brought out the family genealogy. In front of everyone, he solemnly used a red brush to strike out my name. Zobin stood outside the ancestral hall, hearing the commotion inside. He continuously wiped away tears with his sleeve. This is too much bullying. Wow, this is too much bullying. All right, everyone, quiet down. The clan elder raised his hand to calm them, then turned and looked at me coldly. Second fool, do you have anything else to say? I clenched my fists, trying not to let tears fall. I want to go back to my house and take a look. The clan elder agreed, instructing several villagers to keep an eye on me, fearing I would take anything from the house. All the furniture in my house had been looted. The house, once simple but warm, now had only 4 bare walls. Even my bedboards had been dismantled and taken away. My parents' portraits were thrown on the ground, covered with messy footprints. Not even locusts were as devastating as these people. They didn't even leave me a single change of clothes. In the end, besides my parents' portraits, I took nothing. Before leaving the village, I intentionally visited the Earth God Temple. After respectfully kowtowing several times, a mournful sigh emanated from within the temple. Chen Ping An, you released the female ghost without authorization, and now you have been expelled from the clan. You can no longer serve as the village guardian. Your healing hippo is returned to you. From now on, you are not to return to Chen family village. I felt something enter my body, and my whole being seemed to awaken, instantly becoming completely clear-headed. All the things I hadn't understood or thought through before now had answers. I gazed deeply at the clay earth god statue, then turned and walked towards the door. Oh my, second fool, why are you suddenly so handsome? Go to hell. Even your eyes are different now. You look like Daniel Wu now. Even more handsome than me. Absolutely amazing. Jobin danced around me, his expression extremely exaggerated, clearly trying to cheer me up. I forcefully patted his head. My name is Chen Ping An, not second fool. Jobin clutched his head, looking at me blankly. Oh my God, second fool, you really have gotten smarter. I smiled, ignoring him, and continued forward. Joe Bin bought a bus ticket for me. Now, I would go to Jiangcheng with him. The road down the mountain had to pass through the village. As Zhou Bin and I walked through the village, the villagers looked at me with eyes full of contempt and disdain. Jinx! Get out of here quickly! That's right. Don't even think about staying in our cursed village. Go, go! The children also threw stones at me, chanting as they threw. Jinx second fool cursed his parents, harmed people. Get out of the village, don't look back. Jobin's face was distorted with anger. He stomped his feet, wanting to curse them, but I pulled him back. I carried my snakeskin bag and walked forward, leaving them a dashing silhouette. Don't worry, I won't come back. The chest in my house truly hid a chest of silver ingots. It's just that those ingots were cursed, and my parents died because of that chest. One ingot, one life. Whichever family divided the most would eventually suffer the most deaths. In the future, there will be no more Chen family village. It will disappear from this land along with the village guardian. Ah, in Ngo,